In the heart of St. Michael's Cathedral, a priest kneels before the altar, his weathered hands clasped in prayer. The golden cross around his neck catches the light streaming through stained glass windows. But beneath his pristine collar lies a tapestry of faded tattoos, silent witnesses to a violent past. As the evening bells toll, a group of local thugs swagger through the church doors, unaware that the man they're about to threaten once ruled the very streets they now claim to own. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning sun bathes St. Michael's Parish in warm light as Father Marcus Davidson prepares for early Mass. The historic brick church stands as a beacon of hope in the struggling neighborhood of East Haven, its Gothic spires rising above the mix of modest homes and rundown apartments. The gentle sounds of children playing in the adjacent community center float through the morning air as elderly parishioners make their way up the worn stone steps. Inside the parish hall, Sister Claire oversees a group of volunteers preparing breakfast for the neighborhood's homeless. The aroma of coffee and fresh bread fills the air as Maria Rodriguez, a longtime resident, helps distribute meals. Her teenage son, Tommy, assists nearby, though his eyes constantly drift to the window, watching the street with barely concealed anxiety. Father Marcus moves through the hall, greeting people by name, his gentle demeanor masking the alertness in his eyes. He pauses to help an elderly man with his tray, the sleeve of his black shirt riding up slightly to reveal the edge of a faded tattoo, a remnant of another life. A life he thought he'd left behind. The peaceful morning routine shatters as the screech of tires cuts through the air. 3 black SUVs pull up outside the community center. The children playing basketball quickly scatter, their abandoned ball rolling across the court. Sister Claire hurries the breakfast attendees toward the back of the hall, her experienced movements suggesting this isn't the first such interruption. Through the window, Father Marcus watches as men in expensive tracksuits emerge from the vehicles. Their leader, Victor the Ghost Petrov, stands out in his tailored suit, his platinum hair gleaming in the sunlight. The Russian mobster has been systematically taking over East Haven's businesses, using a combination of intimidation and violence to establish his control. Tommy instinctively moves closer to his mother, his hands trembling slightly. Maria clutches her rosary, her knuckles white with tension. The entire room holds its breath as Victor's men spread out around the building, their intentions clear. This is a show of force. Father Marcus steps outside, his collar catching the morning light. The breakfast program is a neutral zone. Mr. Petrov, we've discussed this. His voice carries across the courtyard, calm but firm. Some of Victor's men shift uncomfortably. There's something in the priest's stance that doesn't quite align with his peaceful appearance. Victor approaches, his expensive shoes clicking against the pavement. Ah, the good father, always protecting his flock. His accent adds a mocking edge to the words. But times are changing in East Haven. The church's influence, it wanes. Perhaps it's time to discuss a more beneficial arrangement for everyone's protection. Behind Victor, his right-hand man, Dmitri, opens a briefcase filled with cash. The message is clear. Cooperation can be bought. Father Marcus's expression remains neutral, but something flickers in his eyes, a shadow of something dangerous that Victor's younger soldiers don't recognize, but old Mikhail, Victor's veteran enforcer, notices. He studies the priest with newfound interest, his hand unconsciously moving closer to his concealed weapon. Inside the hall, Tommy watches the confrontation through the window. "Mom," he whispers, "there's something different about Father Marcus. Today, the way he's standing." Maria shushes him, but she sees it too. The priest's peaceful demeanor has shifted subtly, revealing something harder underneath, like steel beneath silk. Victor steps closer, invading the priest's personal space. "You know, Father, before coming here, I made some inquiries about you. Your record from before the seminary. It's surprisingly empty, almost as if someone erased it." He smiles, all teeth and no warmth. "I don't trust empty records." Father Marcus meets Victor's gaze steadily. "The past stays in the past, Mr. Petrov. This is a place of sanctuary and new beginnings. I suggest you respect that." The words are diplomatic, but there's an undercurrent of authority that makes several of Victor's men step back involuntarily. Old Mikhail suddenly stiffens, his eyes widening in recognition. He whispers something in Victor's ear, causing the mob boss to reassess the priest with new interest. The atmosphere shifts, tension crackling like electricity before a storm. Victor signals his men to stand down, but his smile has turned calculating. "Of course, Father, the Church's neutrality is appreciated. For now." He turns to leave, but pauses. "Though I wonder, does your congregation know what kind of man offers them absolution?" After the SUVs depart, Father Marcus remains on the steps, watching until they turn the corner. His right hand absently traces the cross at his neck, while his left, hidden from view, has curled into a fist so tight his knuckles have turned white. The morning sun illuminates his face, highlighting scars so faint they're nearly invisible, remnants of a past life trying to resurface. Inside, life slowly returns to normal. The breakfast program resumes. Children cautiously return to their games, and prayers are whispered in both gratitude and fear. But something has changed. The illusion of safety has cracked, revealing the precarious nature of their peace. Sister Claire approaches Father Marcus as he returns inside. "They're getting bolder," she observes quietly. Her eyes, sharp despite her age, study his face. "I know that look, Marcus. Whatever you're thinking—" "I took vows, Claire," he interrupts gently, "made promises to God and this community." But his eyes drift to the children playing outside, to Maria holding Tommy close, to the elderly parishioners who depend on the Church's protection. Sister Claire touches his arm gently. "Sometimes faith asks us to walk difficult paths, even paths we thought we'd left behind." She pauses, choosing her next words carefully. "God's grace works in mysterious ways. Perhaps your past isn't a burden to be forgotten, but a tool to be used in His service." Father Marcus doesn't respond immediately. He watches as Tommy helps an elderly man with his coat, the boy's earlier fear replaced by simple kindness. The morning sun streams through the stained glass windows, casting colored shadows across the hall's worn floor. In these moments of peace, the weight of his past choices feels heavier than ever. As the breakfast program winds down and the parishioners begin to leave, Father Marcus retreats to the church's small chapel. He kneels before the altar, the same position he takes every morning, but today his prayers carry a different weight. The cross around his neck feels both like a burden and a shield as he contemplates the choice looming before him. Maintain his vows of peace or draw upon a past he's spent years trying to bury. Unknown to him, Tommy lingers in the doorway, watching. The boy sees something in the priest's struggling figure that resonates with his own battles between fear and courage. In the quiet of the chapel, both priest and boy stand at a crossroads, their choices bound together by forces neither fully understands. Later that afternoon, Father Marcus visits the community center where local teenagers gather for after-school programs. The usual basketball game has been replaced by nervous whispers and worried glances. News of Victor's morning visit has spread quickly through the neighborhood's grapevine. Some parents have already called to withdraw their children from the center's programs. In a corner, Tommy sits with his friends Miguel and Darnell, their homework forgotten as they discuss the morning's events. "I'm telling you," Tommy insists. In a hushed voice, Father Marcus wasn't scared at all. The way he stood up to them, My cousin says Victor's crew took over the whole east side, Darnell counters. Even the cops won't go there anymore. His words carry the weight of desperate resignation that's become too common among East Haven's youth. Father Marcus approaches their table, catching the end of their conversation. The boys fall silent, but he can read the fear in their eyes. The same fear he once inspired in others, lifetime ago. Fear, he says, pulling up a chair, is like a chain. It only has power if you let it bind you. The boys exchange glances, surprised by his directness. Miguel, whose family's grocery store recently started paying protection money to Victor's crew, speaks up. But what can we do? They have all the power. A shadow crosses Father Marcus's face. Power isn't always what it seems. He rolls up, his sleeves slightly to adjust his watch, deliberately letting them glimpse the edge of his tattoo. Sometimes, the strongest people are the ones who choose not to use their strength. Before the boys can ask more questions, a commotion erupts outside. Through the windows, they see Dimitri and two other men forcing their way into Miguel's family store across the street. Father Marcus rises quickly, his movement carrying an unconscious grace that seems at odds with his priestly garments. "Stay here," he instructs the boys, his voice carrying an authority that makes them instinctively obey. As he strides toward the door, Sister Claire catches his arm. "Marcus," she warns, "remember who you are now." He pauses, conflict evident in his eyes. "I am who I've always been, Claire. That's the problem." His words carry a weight that suggests deeper meaning, but he doesn't elaborate as he heads across the street. Inside the store, Dimitri is making an example of Miguel's father, Mr. Ortiz, knocking items off shelves while delivering a lecture about late protection payments. Father Marcus enters quietly, but his presence immediately changes the atmosphere. The thugs sense something in his bearing that makes them hesitate. "Mr. Ortiz," Father Marcus says calmly, "I believe it's time for afternoon confession." His eyes never leave Dimitri as he speaks. "These men were just leaving," Dimitri sneers, trying to maintain his advantage. "This isn't your business, Father, unless you want to give last rites." Father Marcus moves closer, his steps measured and deliberate. When he speaks, his voice carries traces of an accent he usually keeps hidden, a hint of the streets he once ruled. "You're young, Dimitri. Too young to remember the war between the Irish and Russian crews in '99, but old Mikhail remembers." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "Ask him about the Ghost Street massacre. Ask him about the man they called the Saint. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us." Now back to the story. The color drains from Dimitri's face. Even through his bravado, he's heard the stories. His hand trembles slightly as he signals his men to back off. "This isn't over," he mutters, but the threat sounds hollow. After they leave, Mr. Ortiz begins cleaning up, his hands shaking. "Father, I don't know how to thank you." "Lock up early today," Father Marcus advises, helping him write a knocked-over display. "Come to evening mass. Bring your family." His voice softens. God's house is always open. Back in the church, Father Marcus sits in the confessional, his head bowed. The afternoon light filters through the wooden screen as he listens to his parishioners' sins and fears. But his mind keeps returning to Victor's words. "Does your congregation know what kind of man offers them absolution?" The question echoes in his heart as the sun sets over East Haven, painting the church windows in shades of blood red and deep purple. The day's events have stirred something inside him, something that years of prayer and penance have failed to fully exercise. As he prepares for evening mass, Father Marcus knows that soon he'll have to choose between his vows of peace and his duty to protect his flock. And somewhere in the gathering darkness, Victor's men are surely planning their next move, unaware that they've awakened something far more dangerous than a simple priest. The next morning dawns with an unnatural quiet hanging over East Haven. The usual bustle of early risers heading to work is replaced by shuttered windows and hurried footsteps. Father Marcus finds Sister Claire in the church garden, tending to her roses with trembling hands. The morning dew hasn't yet dried when she looks up at him, her weathered face gravely. "Miguel's family shop was burned down last night," she says, quietly. "The fire department is calling it an electrical fault." Father Marcus's fingers tighten around his prayer beads, the wooden crosses creaking under the pressure. The garden's peace feels like a mockery now, with smoke still visible rising from the direction of the Ortiz family store. Inside the community center, the breakfast program continues, but the room is half empty. Those who do attend huddle in. Small groups, voices hushed. Maria Rodriguez serves coffee with reddened eyes. Her brother worked at Miguel's father's store, and now another family income is gone. Tommy helps distribute bread, but his movements are mechanical. He's young. Face hard with suppressed anger, Father Marcus makes his way through the hall, offering what comfort he can, when Darnell bursts through the doors out of breath. "Father, they're at the basketball court. They've got Miguel." The priest moves with controlled urgency, his long strides carrying him across the church grounds. To the community basketball court. There he finds Victor's men surrounding Miguel, the teenager's face already sporting a bruise. Dimitri stands to the side, smoking a cigarette with artificial casualness. Caught this one trying to spray paint. "Over our tags," one of the thugs announces, shoving Miguel forward. On the court's wall, half-finished graffiti spells out "Cower" in angry red paint. Father Marcus assesses the situation with eyes that see more than just the surface tension. He notes the positions of Victor's men, the way they hold themselves, their subtle tells of nervousness or aggression. "Old habits die hard. Let him go," Father Marcus says, his voice carrying across the court. "He's just a kid." Dimitri flicks his cigarette away. "Kids need to learn respect, Father. Street lessons stick better than Sunday school." Miguel struggles against his captors, tears of frustration mixing with blood from his split lip. "They burned down my father's store, everything we had." A sharp blow silences him, and something shifts in Father Marcus's demeanor. It's subtle, a slight change in his stance, a hardening around his eyes. But the effect is immediate. Two of Victor's younger soldiers take unconscious steps backward. "Miguel," Father Marcus says, his voice gentler than his expression, "close your eyes." What happens next occurs so quickly that later witnesses would give conflicting accounts. Father Marcus moves like smoke through the group, his years of training impossible to fully suppress. No devastating blows are thrown. He's still a priest after all. But pressure points are struck with surgical precision. Within moments, Miguel's captors are on the ground, gasping. Dimitri reaches for his weapon, but Father Marcus is already. "You're there," one hand on Dimitri's wrist, the other on his throat. "Your father," the priest says softly, so only Dimitri can hear, "still walks with a limp from Ghost Street. Ask him why." He releases Dimitri, who stumbles back, his usual swagger replaced by genuine fear. Miguel stands frozen, eyes wide, as Father Marcus gently guides him away from the scene. But violence, even in defense, has consequences. That afternoon, as Father Marcus hears confessions, an unusual penitent enters the booth. Through the screen, he recognizes old Mikhail's profile. "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned," the Russian says, his accent thick with irony. "Though perhaps I should be hearing your confession, Saint. What do you want, Mikhail? To warn you, Victor knows who you are now, what you did. The bodies you left behind before finding..." He gestures at the confessional walls. "All this. That life is behind me. No one leaves that life, Saint. You know this. Victor has called in special help. They arrive tonight." Mikhail pauses. The Irish crews you destroyed, they had families too. Some of those families have been waiting a long time for revenge. Father Marcus sits in silence, the weight of his past pressing down like a physical force. Finally, he says, "Tell Victor. He's playing a dangerous game. The game is already in motion." Mikhail stands to leave, then hesitates. The boy, Miguel, get him out of East Haven, tonight. But the warning comes too late. As evening approaches, Father Marcus finds Tommy alone in the church, praying with an intensity that immediately sets off alarm bells. The boy's face is streaked with tears. "They took him," Tommy chokes out. "Miguel went back to the store to get his father's medals from the safe, and they were waiting. They left this." He hands over a phone with a video playing. The footage shows Miguel, beaten but defiant, held in what looks like a warehouse. Victor's voice comes from off-screen. "Your past has a price, Father. Come alone to the old St. Augustine's Cathedral. Come as what you really are, not this holy masquerade. You have 1 hour." Sister Claire finds Father Marcus in the sacristy, standing before his private locker. The door is open, revealing a hidden compartment behind his vestments. Inside lies a wooden box he hasn't opened in 5 years. "Marcus," she says softly, "whatever you're thinking, I took vows, Claire. Vows to serve, to protect, to guide his flock." His hands hover over the box. "But I never vowed to let innocent blood be spilled. There are other ways." "No." His voice carries the finality of a closing tomb. "Not for this. Some demons can only be fought with fire." He opens the box, revealing a set of rosary beads made from bullet casings, his first kill from each territory he conquered in his old life. Beneath them lies a familiar leather jacket, the back emblazoned with a stylized saint holding a sword. "God forgive me," he whispers, removing his collar. Sister Claire watches him with tears in her eyes. "Maybe," she says quietly, "he already has. Maybe this is why he led you here." As Father Marcus prepares to face his past, the evening mass begins. Without him, the congregation's hymns float through the church, a bitter counterpoint to the violence about to unfold. Tommy, hiding in the balcony after refusing to leave, watches the priest walk out into the gathering dark. In the empty sacristy, Sister Claire picks up Father Marcus's discarded collar and holds it to her heart. Above the altar, the stained glass window depicts St. Michael casting out demons, his sword raised in righteous fury. The last light of day catches the angel's face, and for a moment it bears a striking resemblance to a priest who's gone to wage his own war against demons, both external and internal. As Father Marcus walks through the darkening streets, memories he's long suppressed begin to surface. Each step brings back flashes of his past life, the weight of a gun in his hand, the smell of gunpowder, the metallic taste of blood. He passes the ruins of Miguel's family store, the charred timbers still smoking faintly. A small shrine of candles and flowers has already appeared in front, a testament to how much the Ortiz family meant to the community. Inside the community center, Maria gathers the younger children, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy despite the tension in the air. She leads them in evening prayers, her voice steady even as her hands shake. Through the windows, she catches glimpses of unfamiliar cars cruising slowly past. Victor's men establishing their presence, tightening their grip on the neighborhood. Darnell runs through back alleys, avoiding the main streets as he carries urgent news to Mr. Ortiz, who's been organizing other shop owners at the local diner. The merchants sit in tense discussion, their faces illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights as they debate whether to stand together or give in to Victor's demands. The burning of the Ortiz store has shaken their resolve, but something about Father Marcus's actions has given them a dangerous hope. At the police station, Detective Sarah Chen stares at her computer screen, frustration evident in her face. Multiple reports about Victor's activities sit in her inbox, all marked insufficient evidence or witness withdrew complaint. She knows what's happening in East Haven. She grew up there, but the system seems powerless to help. A photo on her desk shows a younger version of herself with Father Marcus at a community outreach event. She picks up her phone, hesitates, then puts it down. Some situations, she's learning, exist in the grey area between law and justice. Tommy, still, hidden in the church balcony, takes out his phone and watches the video of Miguel again. Something in the background catches his eye, a detail he missed before. He zooms in on a distinctive mural visible through a warehouse window, his hands trembling as he recognizes the location. He debates whether to call Detective Chen with this information, but the memory of Miguel's bruised face makes him hesitate. Sometimes he realizes the official channels aren't enough. In his private office at the Golden Gate Club, Victor receives a phone call. His face darkens as he listens to the voice on the other end. "You're certain?" he asks. "The saint himself?" He ends the call and opens a laptop, accessing old police files that should have been impossible to obtain. Crime scene photos from the Ghost Street massacre fill the screen. Bodies laid out with almost ritual precision, each marked with a specific wound that became a signature. Victor's hand unconsciously moves to his throat as he reads the details. Father Marcus approaches St. Augustine's Cathedral, its abandoned Gothic architecture looming against the night sky. The building has been closed for years, its congregation merged with St. Michael's after the neighborhood's decline. He knows every entrance, every shadow. He used this place as a safe house in his former life before it became a symbol of his transformation. Inside his jacket, the bullet-casing rosary clicks softly with each step. Each bead represents a life, taken, a territory claimed, a piece of his soul bargained away in his rise to power. He had thought God's forgiveness would erase these memories, but now he understands. Some sins aren't meant to be forgotten, but transformed. Like the cathedral itself, abandoned but not destroyed, waiting for a new purpose. As he reaches the cathedral steps, a figure emerges from the shadows, old Mikhail alone and unarmed. "They're waiting inside," the Russian says quietly. "Not just Victor's men, others, those who remember the saint." He pauses. "Whatever happens, tonight will echo through the streets for years to come." Father Marcus nods once, understanding the warning for what it is. "Keep the children away from St. Michael's tonight," he says. "Whatever you hear, whatever happens, keep them safe. And the boy, Miguel, tell his father." Father Marcus stops, reconsidering. "Tell them all to come to Sunday Mass. God willing, I'll be there." He ascends the cathedral steps, each footfall echoing in the empty street. Behind him, old Mikhail crosses himself, not the Orthodox way of his homeland, but in the Catholic gesture he's observed in St. Michael's. Whether it's a prayer for the priest's soul or protection from what's about to be unleashed, even he isn't sure. The massive doors creak open at Father Marcus's touch. Inside, darkness waits, broken only by the faint glow of votive candles, an almost blasphemous recreation of church ritual. As the doors swing shut behind him, the last light from the street catches his face, showing not the peaceful countenance of a priest, but the cold focus of a man returning to a battlefield he thought he'd left behind. St. Augustine's Cathedral stands silent in the darkness, its stone walls holding secrets both old and new. Inside, Father Marcus moves through the shadows with practiced ease, his footsteps echoing off ancient marble. The interior has changed since his days using it as a safe house. Broken pews scattered like fallen soldiers, walls marked with graffiti, stained glass windows shattered to leave gaping wounds in the architecture. In the nave, Miguel kneels before the destroyed altar, hands bound behind his back. Victor's men emerge from the shadows, their weapons trained on the priest. The scene is an obscene parody of evening mass with violence replacing reverence. The prodigal son returns. Victor's voice carries from the darkness. He steps into the light of the votive candles holding an old newspaper. The yellowed headline reads, "Ghost Street Massacre, 13 dead, no suspects." Below it, a grainy security camera image shows a figure in a leather jacket, face turned away, standing among the carnage. "You've done your homework," Father Marcus says quietly, his eyes never leaving Miguel. "Oh, I've done more than that." Victor snaps his fingers and a side door opens. 3 men enter, their expensive suits marking them as more than common. Thugs. "Meet some old friends, Saint. They've come a long way for this reunion." The first man, silver-haired and battle-scarred, steps forward. "Remember me, Saint. You killed my brother on Ghost Street. Make him kneel before you execute him." Connor. "McKinley," Father Marcus acknowledges. "Your brother was running children for the Irish mob. Sometimes God's justice wears a different face." Connor's laugh is bitter. "And now you hide behind a collar? Pathetic." Miguel watches this exchange with growing understanding, his young face a mixture of fear and confusion as he sees his priest in a new light. Victor circles the group, enjoying the tension. "You see, Father, your past isn't as buried as you thought. These men have waited years for this moment. The Saint, the legendary enforcer who brought down the Irish mob, now playing shepherd to a flock of sheep." "Let the boy go," Father Marcus says. "This is between us." "No, I don't think so." Victor produces a phone, showing security footage of the community center. "Your little flock needs to learn what happens when they defy progress. After tonight, East Haven will understand the true meaning of fear." Father Marcus's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his posture. A subtle reading, like a coiled spring. "You're making a mistake, Victor. One you won't live to regret." The threat hangs in the air, heavy with promise. Connor and his men spread out, years of hatred visible in their stance. They've waited too long for revenge to rush it now. "Search him," Victor commands. 2 of his men approach Father Marcus cautiously. They find the bullet-casing rosary, which Victor examines with mock reverence. 13 beads, he observes. 1 for each kill on Ghost Street. How very Catholic of you. While they focus on Father Marcus, Miguel slowly works at his bonds, his wrists bleeding from the effort. The priest notices but keeps attention focused on himself. "You know what I never understood?" Connor steps closer, his scarred face twisted with hate. "How did you do it? 13 of our best men taken down by one person." "I wasn't alone," Father Marcus replies softly. "God's hand guided me." This provokes laughter from Victor's men, but old Mikhail, watching from the shadows, crosses himself. Again, he alone seems to understand the weight of those words. Victor grows tired of the game. "Enough reminiscing. Connor, you and your men can have your revenge. But remember, make it slow. I want his flock to hear his screams from St. Michael's. Before anyone can move, a noise echoes from the cathedral's upper level. All eyes turn toward the sound, and in that split second, Father Marcus acts. His movement is fluid, economic, trained by years of violence and perfected by years of prayer. The 2 men nearest him go down before they can react, pressure points struck with surgical precision. Miguel seizes his chance, rolling behind a fallen pew as chaos erupts. Gunfire shatters the silence, bullets splintering wood and chipping stone. But Father Marcus moves like a shadow through his old hunting ground, using the cathedral's architecture against his attackers. Connor's men, professionals that they are, try to establish a firing pattern, but the priest seems to anticipate their tactics. One by one they fall, not dead, but efficiently incapacitated. His attacks are precise, designed to disable rather than kill. yet no less effective for their mercy. In the confusion, Detective Chen slips through a side entrance, gun drawn. She's followed procedure by calling for backup, but she knows they'll be mysteriously delayed. Some situations require a more direct approach. Victor, realizing his plan is unraveling, grabs Miguel and presses a gun to the boy's head. "Enough! Stay where you are, Saint, or the boy dies!" Father Marcus freezes, his hands raised. Blood trickles from a graze on his forehead, making his expression even more severe. "You surprise me, Victor," he says calmly. "I thought you were smarter than this." "Shut up, you're not in control here. Look around you, really look. Why do you think I chose this place for my sanctuary all those years ago?" Victor's eyes darted around the cathedral, really seeing it for the first time. The broken windows aren't random vandalism. They're carefully calculated firing positions. The scattered pews create deliberate channels of movement. Even the placement of the votive candles serves a tactical purpose, creating shadows and blind spots. "This isn't a church," Father Marcus continues, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "It's a fortress, my fortress, and you just walked into it." A sudden movement from above catches Victor's eye. Tommy, who had followed Father Marcus, stands in the choir loft, holding a large piece of broken stained glass. Before Victor can react, the boy sends it crashing down, forcing him to dive away from Miguel. The moment's distraction is all Father Marcus needs. He closes the distance with devastating speed, his movements carrying the fluid grace of long practice. Victor manages one wild shot before the priest disarms him with a technique that seems to defy physics. Connor, the last man standing, faces Father Marcus across the altar. "You're still a killer," he spits. "The collar doesn't change what you are." "No," Father Marcus agrees, shifting into a familiar stance. "But it changes what I choose to do about it." The fight that follows is brief but intense. Connor's hatred makes him strong, but Father Marcus's skills have only been refined by years of discipline. When it ends, Connor lies unconscious but breathing, a mercy his brother never received. Detective Chen helps Miguel to his feet while Tommy climbs down from his perch. Through the broken windows, dawn's first light begins to creep into the cathedral, illuminating the aftermath of violence. Father Marcus stands in the ruins of the altar, his breath steady despite the exertion. He picks up his bullet-casing rosary from where Victor dropped it, then retrieves his discarded collar from his pocket. "You okay, Marcus?" Detective Chen asks quietly. He doesn't answer immediately, looking instead at Miguel and Tommy, who stare at him with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "The truth," he finally says, "is a heavy burden, sometimes heavier than sin." He turns to the boys. "There are many ways to serve God. Sometimes he calls us to peace. Sometimes he calls us to be warriors." As police sirens finally approach in the distance, Father Marcus leads his small group out of the cathedral. Behind them, the rising sun streams through the broken windows, creating patterns of light and shadow that dance across the fallen bodies, a reminder that even in places of violence, grace can still be found. Back at St. Michael's, Sister Claire maintains her vigil in the chapel, leading a small group of parishioners in prayer. The sound of approaching sirens makes her pause mid-rosary, her weathered hands tightening around her beads. Through the windows, she watches multiple police cars speed past, their lights painting the church walls in alternating red and blue. Detective Chen makes quick work of the scene, ensuring that certain details remain absent from the official report. She's learned that justice and the law don't always walk the same path. As she interviews Victor and his men, their stories are confused, contradictory, none willing to admit they were outmaneuvered by a priest. "You don't understand," Victor says through bloodied lips, his earlier confidence shattered. "He's not what you think, the things he's done." "What I understand," Chen interrupts, "is that a community leader defended a kidnapped child from armed attackers. That's what the report will show. Unless you'd like to discuss your other activities in East Haven?" Old Mikhail, still lingering in the shadows, watches this exchange with knowing eyes. He makes a phone call, speaking rapid Russian. Word will spread through the underground. The saint hasn't lost his touch, and East Haven is under his protection. Father Marcus leads Miguel and Tommy through back alleys, avoiding the growing police presence. His movements are still fluid, but now show the cost of the night's activities. Violence, even in defense of others, extracts its price. The things they said about you, Miguel starts, then hesitates, about Ghost Street. The past is a different country, Miguel. We can learn from it, but we shouldn't live there. Father Marcus pauses, choosing his next words carefully. Sometimes God gives us skills we'd rather not have, but it's what we choose to do with them that matters. Tommy, unusually quiet, finally speaks up. Is that why you became a priest? To make up for before? No. Father Marcus's voice is gentle but firm. I became a priest because I found something worth serving beyond myself. The collar isn't a disguise or a penance. It's a purpose. They emerge from the alleys near Miguel's burned-out store. In the growing dawn light, community members are already gathering, beginning the work of clearing debris. Mr. Ortiz stands among them, his face showing both relief at seeing his son and determination to rebuild. News travels fast in East Haven. By the time Father Marcus reaches St. Michael's, the morning mass crowd has swelled beyond normal size. They part silently as he walks through, some reaching out to touch his sleeve, others making the sign of the cross. The night's events have already taken on an almost mythical quality in the telling. Sister Claire meets him at the church door, her sharp eyes taking in his condition. Without a word, she hands him a fresh collar and his vestments. The transformation, from warrior back to priest, happens in silence, a ritual as sacred as any mass. As Father Marcus prepares to lead morning mass, he notices Tommy and Miguel in the front pew. Behind them, Detective Chen slips into a back row, her official report already recording a very different version of the night's events. Mr. Ortiz and other shopkeepers fill the middle rows, their faces showing new resolve. The morning sun streams through St. Michael's stained glass, casting colourful shadows across the congregation. Father Marcus steps up to the pulpit, his voice carrying clearly through the hushed church. Today's gospel speaks of shepherds and wolves, of protection and sacrifice, but it also teaches us about transformation, that even the fiercest wolf can become a guardian of the flock. In the street outside, workers begin boarding up the broken windows of St. Augustine's Cathedral, but now the graffiti carries a different message. The saint protects. The words spread across East Haven like a prayer, a warning, and a promise. Old Mikhail, watching from across the street, sees Victor's remaining men packing up, preparing to leave the neighborhood. The power dynamics of East Haven have shifted. Overnight, though few understand exactly how, he makes the sign of the cross one final time, wondering if perhaps there's more truth to Father Marcus's faith than he'd thought. Inside St. Michael's, the morning mass continues, the ancient rituals, unchanged by the night's violence. But something has shifted in the atmosphere, a new understanding between shepherd and flock, a deeper appreciation of how grace and strength can coexist. Father Marcus leads his congregation in prayer, the bullet-casing rosary now tucked away, but not forgotten, a reminder that sometimes God's work requires both mercy and might. After Mass, Father Marcus retreats to his small office, the weight of the night's events settling on his shoulders. Detective Chen knocks softly before entering, closing the door behind her. The official report will show a failed kidnapping attempt, she says, placing a file on his desk. Self-defense with no serious injuries. Victor's men are already changing their stories. It seems none of them want to admit what really happened. Father Marcus nods, his fingers absently tracing the cross on his desk. And Connor McKinley? Disappeared before we could question him. Word is he's already left the city. She pauses, choosing her next words carefully. Marcus, what you did at St. Augustine's, it's already changing things. The shop owners are organizing, standing together. Even the younger gang members are reconsidering their allegiances. Through the window, they watch as community members gather in the churchyard. Mr. Ortiz and other business owners huddle in discussion, their faces showing determination rather than fear. Maria Rodriguez distributes coffee and sandwiches while Tommy and Miguel help younger children with the basketball game. The neighborhood needed hope, Chen continues, but they also needed to know they had protection. Sometimes a shepherd needs sharp teeth. Father Marcus turns to face her fully. Sarah, what happened last night? It can't happen again. Violence, even in defense of others, has a cost. And who pays that cost? She challenges me. The people we're supposed to protect? The children who grow up thinking no one can stand against the darkness. Their discussion is interrupted by Sister Claire, who enters with a concerned expression. Marcus, you should see this. In the church garden, dozens of candles have appeared, arranged around the statue of St. Michael. Notes and prayers are tucked among the flowers, not just from parishioners, but from throughout East Haven. Messages of gratitude, of hope, of protection sought and received. They're calling it a miracle, Sister Claire says softly. No one died last night. That evil was turned back without bloodshed. Father Marcus reads some of the notes, his expression thoughtful. One catches his eye. A child's drawing showing a priest with angel wings, standing between a family and shadowy figures. Below it in crayon, thank you for being God's warrior. The burden doesn't get lighter, does it? Sister Claire asks, noting his expression. No, he admits, but maybe it's not supposed to. Maybe the weight is what keeps us grounded. Later, that afternoon, Father Marcus visits the burned ruins of the Ortiz store. Community members are already at work, clearing debris, making plans to rebuild. Mr. Ortiz greets him with a fierce embrace. We're not just rebuilding the store, Ortiz tells him. We're starting a business association. All the shop owners working together. No one stands alone anymore. The priest helps move some charred timbers, his actions now those of a simple parish priest rather than the warrior of the previous night. Yet there's a new respect in how people watch him work, a deeper understanding of the strength that lies beneath his gentle demeanor. As evening approaches, Father Marcus returns to St. Augustine's Cathedral. The police tape is gone, and city workers have already started boarding up the windows. He walks the silent nave, remembering the violence that transpired there. At the altar, he kneels in prayer, but this time it's different. Not a plea for forgiveness, but a conversation about purpose. Tommy finds him there, the boy's footsteps echoing in the empty cathedral. I've been thinking, Tommy says, his young face serious, about what you said, about God giving us skills for a reason. Does that mean sometimes being scary can be a good thing, if you're scared for the right reasons? Father Marcus considers the question carefully. Fear and respect are different things, Tommy. What matters is not our capacity for violence, but our choice to use strength in service of others. He looks at the boy directly. The bravest thing I did last night wasn't fighting. It was choosing not to kill when I could have. As they walk back to St. Michael's in the gathering dusk, the streets of East Haven feel different. Shop owners are closing up without looking over their shoulders. Children play on stoops without being hurried inside. The shadow of fear has lifted, replaced by something new. Not the false peace of ignorance, but the true peace that comes from knowing you're protected. The bullet-casing rosary remains in Father Marcus's pocket, no longer a burden of guilt, but a reminder of transformation. In the end, perhaps that's what redemption really means, not erasing the past, but transforming it into something that serves a higher purpose. As evening prayers begin at St. Michael's, the hymns carry through the neighborhood, and for the first time in years, they sound less like pleas and more like victory songs. A week after the events at St. Augustine's Cathedral, East Haven exists in an uneasy peace. The morning air carries the smell of fresh paint as shop owners restore their storefronts, no longer afraid to show pride in their businesses. At St. Michael's, Father Marcus conducts baptisms, his gentle handling of infants giving no hint of his capacity for violence. But peace, as he well knows, often carries the seeds of future conflict. Detective Chen arrives during the afternoon. Confession, her expression grave. She waits until the last penitent leaves before approaching the priest. "We found Connor McKinley," she says without preamble, "in the river. Someone wanted to send a message." Father Marcus's face remains impassive, but his fingers tighten on his prayer book. "Victor? No." "The method? It's old school, Irish mob style." Chen pulls out her phone, showing him crime scene photos. "They left this on the body. A familiar rosary made of bullet casings, an exact replica of his own. Someone's trying to frame you," Chen continues, "or worse, trying to draw you out. There's more. Remember those files Victor had on Ghost Street? They're circulating underground. Your past is becoming very public, very quickly." Before Father Marcus can respond, Tommy bursts into the church, out of breath. "Father, you need to come. It's Miguel's dad." They find Mr. Ortiz outside his partially rebuilt store, surrounded by a group of agitated shop owners. His face is bruised, but his eyes burn with anger. "They came before dawn," he explains. "Not Victor's men, Irish. Said they were here to protect us from the saint." His laugh is bitter. "Said a murderer can't hide behind a collar forever." "Father," Marcus surveys the gathered crowd. Fear has returned to their eyes, but it's different now. Not the cowering fear of victims, but the nervous energy of people caught between opposing forces. "Marcus," Chen says quietly, "this is escalating. The Irish mob sees an opportunity here. With Victor weakened, they're moving to reclaim their old territories. Using me as their excuse," he finishes. The weight of his past sins settles heavily on his shoulders. Inside the store, Maria tends to Mr. Ortiz's wounds, while Tommy and Miguel clear up broken merchandise. The scene is too familiar, violence leaving its mark on innocence. Sister Claire appears at Father Marcus's side, her face troubled. "There's more. Someone posted photos from Ghost Street online. The morning congregation was smaller than usual. The implications hang in the air. His past isn't just haunting him anymore. It's threatening everything he's built." In his office, Father Marcus opens his laptop to find his inbox flooded with messages. Some express fear, others support, but most seek answers. The story has spread beyond East Haven. Local news vans circle the neighborhood like vultures. "We should hold a community meeting," Sister Claire suggests. "Let me address these concerns directly." "And say what?" His voice carries an edge of frustration. "That yes, I was once a killer. That before finding God, I was everything they fear." "No," she responds firmly. "Tell them that God's grace can transform anyone. Show them that your past makes you uniquely qualified to protect them." The meeting is scheduled for the evening. As dusk approaches, people fill St. Michael's, not just parishioners, but shop owners, families, even some of Victor's former associates. The tension is palpable. Father Marcus stands at the pulpit, his collar feeling unusually tight, but before he can speak, the church doors burst open. A group of men in suits enter, led by a face he hasn't seen in 15 years. Patrick Donovan, former king of the Irish mob, walks down the center aisle. His hair has gone grey, but his eyes still carry the cold calculation that made him legendary in the underworld. "Beautiful sermon last Sunday," Donovan says, his Irish accent thick with sarcasm. all about redemption and second chances. Tell me, Father, did my brother get a second chance on Ghost Street? The congregation shifts nervously, but Father Marcus remains still. Your brother made his choices, Patrick, as did I. Choices. Donovan's laugh is harsh. You slaughtered our people, took our territory, then vanished like a ghost. Now you play at being a holy man? He reaches into his jacket, producing an old photograph. Remember her? The photo shows a young woman, beautiful and fierce. Father Marcus's expression doesn't change, but those who know him well see the pain flash across his eyes. Sarah Donovan, Patrick continues. My sister, your lover, before you decided loyalty meant nothing. Gasps ripple through the congregation. Sister Claire moves closer to the pulpit, protective despite the danger. The past is complicated, Patrick, Father Marcus says quietly. The past is written in blood, Donovan roars. You think a collar can wash that away? That God's forgiveness. Change what you are? Detective Chen stands in the back, her hand near her weapon, but this is beyond police intervention. This is old blood demanding repayment. I know what I was, Father Marcus responds, his voice carrying to every corner of the church. I know what I am now. The question is, Patrick, do you? Look around you, at these people, this community. Is your vengeance worth more blood? Donovan's men spread out through the church, their intentions clear. But the congregation doesn't scatter. Instead, they stand, forming a wall between their priest and his accusers. Mr. Ortiz, his face still bruised, steps forward. Whatever he was before, he's our priest now, our protector. Your protector, Donovan sneers. Do you know how many families he destroyed? How many children he orphaned? I know he saved my son, Mr. Ortiz responds firmly. I know he stands against those who would prey on the weak. The past is past. This is who he is now. The standoff stretches, electric with tension. Finally, Donovan steps back, but his smile promises future conflict. We'll see what he is, he says softly, when the past comes calling in full. Ghost Street was just the beginning, wasn't it, Saint? Tell them about Belgrade, about what really started all this. He turns to leave, his men following. At the door, he pauses. Oh, and Sister Claire, ask your priest about April 18th, 1999. Ask him where he was when the children's hospital burned. The silence after their departure is deafening. Father Marcus stands at the pulpit, the weight of unspoken secrets visible in his stance. The congregation waits, caught between faith and doubt, between the man they know and the killer there. Learning about Tommy, who has been recording everything on his phone, finally breaks the silence. Father, what's Belgrade? The question hangs in the air like smoke, bringing with it the scent of older fires, deeper sins, and secrets that can no longer remain buried. Father Marcus surveys the congregation, seeing the mixture of fear, doubt, and trust in their faces. Finally, he removes his collar and places it carefully on the pulpit. What I'm about to tell you, he begins, his voice carrying a weight of years, I've never shared with anyone except God. Some of you may leave after hearing it. I wouldn't blame you. Sister Claire moves to stop him, but he raises a hand. They deserve the truth, Claire, all of it. The church falls silent as Father Marcus begins his tale. Belgrade wasn't just a place. It was where everything changed. I was younger then, ambitious. The Irish mob had operations across Europe, and I was their rising star. Sarah Donovan and I were in love, planning a future together. But then we discovered something in Belgrade, something that changed everything. He pauses, the memory clearly painful. The children's hospital was a front. The Irish mob, along with local criminals, was using it to traffic children. Sarah and I found out by accident. She wanted to go to the police, but I knew they were corrupted. I wanted to handle it our way, with violence. The congregation listens, spellbound, as their priest reveals his past. We argued. Sarah threatened to expose everything, regardless of the consequences. That night, April 18th, I planned to destroy the trafficking operation, but someone had warned them. Fire, it wasn't supposed to happen that way, his voice catches. Sarah was inside, trying to get the children out. I got as many as I could, but the building, she made me promise to protect the innocent, to make things right. I held her as she died. Tommy and Miguel exchange glances, understanding dawning in their young faces. Mr. Ortiz grips his son's shoulder tighter. After that, I waged war. Ghost Street wasn't random violence. It was eliminating everyone involved in the trafficking ring. But violence, even for justice, takes something from your soul. Each kill left a mark, each death added weight. He touches his bullet casing rosary. I kept one casing from each major player I took down, not as trophies, as reminders of the cost. Detective Chen steps forward. The case files, they never connected Belgrade to Ghost Street, because I never told anyone. After it was done, I wandered, found my way to a monastery in Greece. An old priest there helped me understand. God wasn't calling me to erase my past, but to use it, to become a different kind of warrior. He looks directly at Patrick Donovan's empty seat. Your brother wasn't just running children for profit, Patrick. He was part of Belgrade. Sarah discovered his involvement that night. That's why she went to the hospital, to save the children. He had condemned. The revelation sends murmurs through the church. Sister Claire wipes tears from her eyes, understanding at last the full weight her friend has carried. So now you know, Father Marcus concludes, I am a killer. I am a priest. I am both the sin and the redemption. If you want me to leave, no. The voice comes from the back. Maria Rodriguez stands, her face determined. You protected my tummy when Victor's men came for him. You saved Miguel. The past is past. We judge you by who you are now. Others stand, joining their voices in support. The shop owners, the families, even some former gang members who found guidance in his words. The community makes its choice, but Detective Chen's expression remains troubled. Marcus, if Belgrade is becoming public, there are powerful people who want those secrets to stay buried. I know. He replaces his collar, the gesture carrying new meaning. But I'm not hiding anymore. Whatever comes, we face it together. As the meeting disperses, Sister Claire remains behind. The old priest in Greece, she says quietly. He told you something else, didn't he? Something about your path? Father Marcus nods slowly. He said, God sometimes keeps a weapon sharp for a reason. That true peace isn't the absence of violence, but the presence of justice. Through the church windows, they watch the congregation leave in groups, protecting each other. The evening light catches the broken stained glass, creating patterns that look almost like armor. In his office later that night, Father Marcus opens a hidden compartment in his desk. Inside lies a worn journal, Sarah Donovan's diary. Its pages contain names, dates, details of the trafficking operation, evidence he's kept safe for 15 years. A text from Detective Chen lights up his phone. Belgrade files found in police archives. Someone's accessing them. Father Marcus closes. The journal, his decision made. The past isn't just catching up, it's revealing a deeper purpose. As night falls over East Haven, he begins to write, documenting everything. If the truth must come out, it will come out fully. Tommy, watching from the doorway again, sees his priest's expression and understands. Sometimes protecting others means facing your darkest truths. Sometimes redemption isn't about escaping the past, but about ensuring it serves a greater purpose. The boy slips away, leaving Father Marcus to his writing. In the church above, the evening candles burn like beacons, casting long shadows that seem to dance with darker memories. But now these shadows don't threaten, they remind. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. The question is what they choose to do with both. Past midnight, Detective Chen returns to St. Michael's, finding Father Marcus still in his office. She carries a thick file marked, Classified, Belgrade Operations 1999. The archive access came from inside the department, she says, placing the file on his desk. High-level clearance. Someone's stirring up old ghosts. Father Marcus opens Sarah's journal to a specific page. These names, cross-reference them with any current police brass or city officials. Chen's eyes widen as she reads. Some of these, people, they're still in power. If this gets out, it's bigger than Ghost Street now, he confirms. The trafficking network wasn't just criminal. It had protection from people who now hold public office. A noise from the church above makes them both tense. Sister Claire appears in the doorway, her face ashen. Marcus, you need to see the news. On his computer, a breaking news story plays. Breaking. Evidence suggests controversial priest connected to international child trafficking ring. The report twists the Belgrade story, painting Father Marcus as a participant rather than the one who stopped it. They're getting ahead of the truth, Chen realizes, discrediting you before you can expose them. Father Marcus watches the report with an unsettling calm. They're afraid. After all these years, they're still afraid of what Sarah discovered. The church doors open again, and Mr. Ortiz enters with several other shop owners. Despite the late hour, word has spread fast. We've been talking, he says. The business association. We have connections, people who owe us favors. Whatever's coming, you're not facing it alone. Maria appears with Tommy and Miguel, carrying coffee and sandwiches. The neighborhood's watching too, she adds. Victor's men might be gone, but we learned how to look out for each other. Father Marcus looks at these people, his flock, his defenders, and sees something he hadn't expected, not blind faith, but informed trust. They know his sins now, and still they stand with him. Sister Claire picks up Sarah's journal, reading carefully. The hospital records, she says suddenly. The children you saved, there must be records, witnesses. Most were placed in protective care, Chen confirms. Records sealed, identities changed. But maybe... Find them, Father Marcus decides. The truth isn't just in the violence of that night. It's in the lives that were saved. Tommy, who's been unusually quiet, speaks up. Like you always say in Sunday school, Father, actions speak louder than words. The boy's simple wisdom brings a faint smile to the priest's face. Even in this darkness, light finds a way through. As the group plans their response to the unfolding crisis, Father Marcus excuses himself briefly. In the main church, he kneels before the altar, his bullet-casing rosary wrapped around his clasped hands. I asked for redemption, he prays softly. But maybe redemption isn't what I thought. Maybe it's not about escaping the past, but about facing it, about using it to protect others from the same darkness. The stained glass windows reflect the city lights, creating patterns that seem to shift and move. In them he sees faces. Sarah, Donovan, the children from Belgrade, the victims of Ghost Street, his current parishioners, all connected, all part of a larger purpose he's only now beginning to understand. Detective Chen finds him there. Marcus, she says gently, there's something else. The hospital fire. New evidence suggests it wasn't an accident. Someone wanted. Sarah silenced, and they made sure she was inside when it started. The revelation lands like a physical blow. All these years, he's carried the guilt of that night, believing his actions had somehow led to the tragedy. But if it was planned, the truth is coming out, Chen continues. All of it. Are you ready for what that means? Father Marcus stands, his decision made. Truth is like grace. It comes at a cost. But hiding from it only serves those who profit from darkness. As they walk back to his office, where his unlikely allies wait to plan their next moves, Father Marcus feels a strange peace. The burden of his past hasn't lifted. If anything, it's grown heavier with these new revelations. But now he's not carrying it alone. The night deepens over East Haven, but lights burn in windows throughout the neighborhood. The community stays awake, standing watch, preparing for whatever comes next. In St. Michael's, plans are made, truths are shared, and a new kind of redemption takes shape. Not the quiet peace of forgotten sins, but the fierce grace of confronting them in service of justice. Tommy, watching his priest move among the gathered supporters, thinks about the story of St. Michael, the warrior angel who fought darkness, not with hatred, but with righteous purpose. Sometimes he realizes the holiest acts aren't the peaceful ones, but the ones that require courage to face the darkest truths. The service tunnel emerges behind an abandoned medical waste facility 3 blocks from the hospital. As Father Marcus, Detective Chen, and Anna emerge into the fading daylight, Sister Claire's station wagon appears right on schedule, Mr. Ortiz at the wheel. The church is compromised, he reports as they quickly get in. Men in suits, flashing federal badges, they're calling it a terrorism investigation. Father Marcus checks his phone. The photos of Sarah's evidence uploaded successfully to Sister Claire's secure server. Federal badges don't mean federal agents, he says grimly. Not anymore. My place is being watched too, Chen adds, checking her messages. And the precinct just suspended me pending an internal investigation. Anna huddles in the back seat, clutching Sarah's folder. It's happening again, she whispers, just like Belgrade. The same men, the same tactics. Mr. Ortiz drives carefully, taking a circuitous route through East Haven's back streets. The neighborhood has changed since morning. Unmarked cars on every corner, suited men trying too hard to look casual, an atmosphere of watchful tension. The community's fighting back, though, Mr. Ortiz says proudly. My wife's running interference. A guide got the ladies' auxiliary spreading rumors about suspicious men around children, got the whole neighborhood calling 911 about potential predators. Father Marcus allows himself a small smile. The power structure never expects resistance from those they consider powerless. They arrive at an unexpected sanctuary. Miguel's grandmother's restaurant, closed for renovations, but actually serving as a safe house. The back room has been transformed into an operations center, with Tommy and his friends monitoring social media and local police scanners. They're pushing the story hard, Tommy reports, showing them his laptop. Every news channel's running pieces about the dangerous ex-gangster priest and his violent past. His voice carries teenage disgust at the obvious manipulation. Maria brings coffee and food, her practical care a reminder of normalcy in increasingly abnormal circumstances. The shelter network is activated, she reports, just like we planned for Victor's men. If they come looking, people can disappear fast. Detective Chen spreads Sarah's documents across a table, creating a timeline. The trafficking operation didn't end with Belgrade. It evolved, went digital. Some of these accounts are still active. And some of these names are still in power, Anna adds, pointing to specific documents, like Judge Harrison, who blocked 3 investigations into missing children last year. Father Marcus studies a particular photo, a group of men at a private club, dated just weeks before the hospital fire. I know this place, the Golden Palace, neutral ground for various organizations. Some of these men... He pauses. Recognition, dawning. They're on the city council now. A commotion outside draws their attention. Through the restaurant's windows, they see several black SUVs cruise past, moving with predatory purpose. They're searching systematically, Chen observes. Street by street, Sister Claire arrives through the back entrance, her usually calm demeanor shaken. They're searching the church records, Marcus. All the baptisms, marriages, confirmations. Looking for patterns, connections. The children, Anna realizes, the ones Sarah saved, she hid their new identities in church records across the city. Father Marcus's phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. The saint can't protect them forever. Some sins don't deserve forgiveness. Almost simultaneously, every TV in the restaurant switches to breaking news. Explosive allegations against controversial priest deepen. Sources claim connection to international trafficking ring. Federal investigation launched. They're trying to control the narrative, Chen says. Make any evidence we release look like desperate fabrications. Tommy, who's been quietly working on his laptop, suddenly sits up straighter. Maybe not. Look at this. People are asking questions online. The timing seems too perfect, they're saying. And some of the federal agents got photographed. Their badges, they don't match up. Mr. Ortiz returns from checking the perimeter. We've got company. Patrick Donovan's car just pulled up at the front. But when Donovan enters, he's alone and unarmed. His face shows conflict, anger warring with something else. The hospital fire, he says without preamble. I found proof it wasn't you. They killed my sister because she was going to expose them. The same men who are hunting you now. Father Marcus meets his gaze steadily. I knew Sarah was gathering evidence, not the details, but enough to worry. That's why I was there that night, to convince her to wait, to be careful. And now we have what she died protecting. Names, dates, bank accounts, enough to bring down their whole operation. Donovan's expression hardens. They're not just going to let you expose them. They've called in specialists. Remember the Murphy brothers? The name causes Father Marcus to tense slightly. The Murphy brothers, legendary cleaners for the Irish mob, known for making problems disappear completely. How long? They're already in the city, and they're not alone. Everyone with something to lose is sending their best. They don't care about public attention anymore. They just want this buried permanently. Detective Chen's phone chimes with an alert. They just issued a warrant for my arrest. Corruption charges, evidence tampering. They're cutting off all official channels, Sister Claire observes, isolating us. Ina, who has been quiet, suddenly speaks up. Not all channels. She pulls up a website on her phone, a forum for trafficking survivors. There are others, from Belgrade, from after. We've been watching, waiting. What if we all came forward? At once, the idea hangs in the air, pregnant with possibility and danger. Father Marcus considers the implications. Dozens of witnesses, too many to silence, each with their own piece of the story. They'll try to discredit you, he warns. Make it look like a coordinated attack. Let them try, Anna replies firmly. Some truths are too powerful to hide. Sarah taught us that. Donovan makes a decision. The Irish community, the real one, not the mob, they remember Sarah. They know she was working to protect children. If these survivors come forward, they'll have support. Tommy, ever the digital native, is already typing. We can create a secure platform, get their stories out faster than they can be taken down. It's not just about exposing the truth, Father, Marcus says quietly. It's about protecting those who speak it. These people, they've built their power on silence. They won't give that up easily. Maria, who has been listening while keeping watch, adds her practical wisdom. Then we build a network, like we did against Victor, but bigger. Safe houses, secure communications, community lookouts. Make it impossible for them to touch anyone without the whole city knowing. Father Marcus looks around the room, at Chen's determined professionalism, Anna's quiet courage, Tommy's youthful idealism, Donovan's quest for truth about his sister, the community's growing resistance. In their faces, he sees something he hasn't seen since Belgrade. Hope. Sarah once told me, he says, picking up her folder, that evil thrives in darkness, that our job wasn't just to fight it, but to drag it into the light. He turns to Anna. Contact your network. It's time to finish what she started. As the group begins to plan, Father Marcus steps aside for a moment of prayer. But this time it's different. Not a plea for forgiveness or guidance, but a warrior's preparation for battle. The bullet-casing rosary clicks through his fingers, each bead a reminder that sometimes God's work requires more than gentle words and peaceful gestures. Outside, The sun sets over East Haven, casting long shadows through the city streets. But shadows can work both ways, providing cover for those who would do evil or concealment for those who would fight it. The question is, which shadow holds the greater power? The planning continues into the night. Detective Chen creates a map of the city on the restaurant's wall, marking safe houses and potential danger zones. The Murphy brothers have a pattern, she explains. They establish a perimeter first, then tighten it slowly. Right now, they're here and here. She marks 2 locations with red pins. They're not the only ones closing in, Donovan adds, checking his phone. Just got word Sergei Volkov arrived from Belgrade. He was middle management during the trafficking operations. Now he's their top cleaner in Eastern Europe. Father Marcus's expression darkens. Volkov. He was there the night of the fire. I saw him leaving the hospital just before it started, Anna finishes. I remember him. He smiled at us during inspections. It was wrong. Tommy and his friends have set up a sophisticated communications network using encrypted apps and burner phones. We've got 14 confirmed survivors ready to tell their stories, he reports, plus 3 former employees from the hospital who knew about the trafficking. And the documents? Sister Claire asks. Are they secure? Distributed across multiple servers, Tommy confirms. Even if they take one down, the others will automatically release everything. Maria returns from checking with her neighborhood network. The Watchers are changing shifts. The new ones, they're different, more professional. Father Marcus moves to the window, studying the street. The casual observers from earlier have been replaced by men with military bearing, their suits barely concealing their tactical gear. They're done playing games, he observes. Volkov doesn't believe in subtle approaches. Anna joins him at the window, her face reflecting in the glass. In Belgrade, before Sarah found me, they kept us in darkness. Said it was to protect us, but really it was to hide us. She brought light, actual lamps, stories, hope. She turns to face him. That's what they fear most, isn't it? Not exposure, but illumination. Mr. Ortiz, who's been coordinating with other shop owners, brings new information. The Golden Palace. There's a meeting tonight. All the major players. Someone called an emergency session. Detective Chen checks her police contacts. They've redirected patrols away from that area, creating a dead zone. They're planning something big, Donovan says. Something they don't want witnesses for. Father Marcus makes a decision. Then that's where we need to be. Not to fight, to document, to illuminate. It's heavily guarded, Chen warns. And with Volkov there, we don't need to get inside, Father Marcus explains, just close enough to broadcast their arrival. Every face that enters that building is another piece of the puzzle. Tommy grins, pulling out his drone. Already ahead of you, Father. High-resolution camera, night vision, and completely untraceable. Sister Claire, who's been quiet, suddenly straightens. The cathedral. What about it? St. Augustine's tower overlooks the Golden Palace, the perfect vantage point, and they'd never expect us to return there. The plan comes together quickly. While Tommy's drone provides aerial surveillance, Father Marcus and Chen will set up in the cathedral tower with high-powered cameras. Edna will coordinate with her survivor network, ready to release their stories the moment they have visual confirmation of key players. The community network will provide distractions if needed. As they prepare to move, Father Marcus takes a moment. With Anna. Sarah would be proud, he tells her, not just of your survival, but of your strength. I was angry for so long, she admits, not just at them, but at God, for letting it happen. For taking her away when she was trying to help. She touches his collar, which he's put back on. Then I saw you on the news, a warrior who became a priest. It helped me understand. Sometimes God's justice wears a different face. Their conversation is interrupted by Donovan's urgent return. New problem. Just got word. The Murphy brothers aren't just here for cleanup. They've brought something from Sarah's old apartment in Dublin, something about a final recording. The revelation hits Father Marcus hard. She used to keep a diary on tape, said if anything happened to her, if they have proof she knew about. The trafficking, Chen says, they could twist it, make it look like she was involved. No, Father Marcus says firmly, Sarah was smarter than that. If she made a recording, it wasn't to confess. It was to condemn. The night deepens over East Haven as the group separates into teams, each with their role to play. The community network activates, creating an invisible web of watchful eyes and ready hands. In homes and shops across the neighborhood, people prepare safe rooms and escape routes, turning the whole area into a maze of sanctuary and subterfuge. Father Marcus and Detective Chen climbed the dark stairs of St. Augustine's Cathedral, equipment in hand. The tower still bears scorch marks from the long-ago fire, but its height provides a perfect view of the city's power center. As they set up their surveillance, Chen asks the question that's been bothering her. The Murphy brothers, Volkov, they're not just cleaners. They're messages. The people behind this, they want you to know they're coming. Yes, Father Marcus agrees, focusing his camera on the Golden Palace's entrance. They want me to run, to hide, to return to the shadows, but that's not going to happen, is it? He checks his bullet-casing rosary one last time before settling in to watch. Sarah brought light to dark places, protected the innocent, spoke truth to power. If I'm to honor her memory, to truly serve God's purpose, I can do no less. Below them, the city's power brokers begin to arrive at the Golden Palace, unaware they're being watched. Each face captured is another thread in the web of corruption Sarah died exposing. And in the gathered shadows of St. Augustine's Tower, a warrior priest prepares to finish what she started. Not with violence this time, but with truth. From St. Augustine's Tower, the Golden Palace glows like a jewel in the city's crown. Father Marcus and Detective Chen maintain their vigil, documenting each arrival. Through their cameras, they watch as Judge Harrison emerges from his Mercedes, followed by 3 city council members. Police Commissioner Reynolds arrives next, accompanied by men whose bearing screams, "Private security." There's Volkov, Chen whispers, adjusting her camera. The Serbian cleaner exits a black SUV, his scarred face distinctive, even at a distance. But no sign of the Murphy brothers. Father Marcus's phone vibrates, a message from Tommy. Drone picking up movement on the roof. They're not all coming through the front. Smart, Chen mutters, using multiple entry points to obscure the total number of attendees. Their observation is interrupted by Anna's voice through their earpieces. Father, we found something in Sarah's documents, something about a secondary site. What kind of site? A processing center, where they kept records of their transactions. Sarah mapped it. It's still active. Underground facility beneath the old shipping terminal. Father Marcus shares a look with Chen. The shipping terminal sits abandoned at the city's edge, officially condemned but mysteriously never demolished. If they kept records, Chen reasons, they kept proof, names, dates, payments, and insurance, Father Marcus adds, the kind of evidence you keep to protect yourself from your own allies. A new voice joins their communication. Donovan, breathing hard. We've got trouble. The Murphy brothers, they're not at the Golden Palace. They're heading to the terminal. Right now. Father Marcus's decision is immediate. Chen, stay here. Keep documenting the meeting. I'll check the terminal. Not alone, she argues. I'll go with him. Donovan cuts in. Time to balance some family accounts. The descent from the tower is swift, but careful. In the cathedral's sanctuary, they find Sister Claire waiting with Mr. Ortiz and a group of community volunteers. The neighborhood's watching the terminal, Ortiz reports. Lots of activity there tonight, trucks moving in and out. They're clearing evidence, Father Marcus realizes. The meeting at the Golden Palace is a distraction. Sister Claire hands him a small package. Sarah's personal effects from the church. Archives. Found them hidden in an old Bible. There's something you need to see. Inside the package he finds Sarah's real diary. Not the public one she kept for show, but a small notebook filled with coded entries, and with it, a key. It matches. The markings on her maps, Anna says, comparing documents. She left breadcrumbs, Father, all these years. The drive to the terminal takes them through East Haven's industrial district. Community lookouts signal all clear as they pass, the neighborhood protecting its own. In the passenger seat, Donovan studies Sarah's diary. The code, he says suddenly. It's from our childhood, a game we played. His voice catches. She knew I'd figure it out eventually. That's why she left it in the church. She knew you'd protect it until the right time. The terminal looms ahead, its rusty gates hanging open. Too open. It's a trap, Father Marcus states quietly. Of course it is, Donovan agrees. But they don't know we know that. They park at a distance, using shipping containers for cover. The Murphy brothers' distinctive vehicles are visible near the main building. Guards patrol the perimeter, their movements professional and coordinated. Father Marcus removes his collar, tucking it safely away. Sarah's diary. What does it say about the entrance? Donovan consults the coded pages. Service tunnel under the east loading dock. Maintenance access to the sub-levels. He pauses. Marcus, there's something else here. About the hospital fire. She knew they were coming. Had proof of who ordered it. Who? Judge Harrison. But he was just the signature. The order came from higher up. Someone she calls the director. Their conversation freezes at the sound of approaching vehicles. Through gaps in the containers, they watch as more SUVs arrive. Men in tactical gear unload equipment, not just weapons, but industrial shredders and incinerators. They're not just clearing evidence, Father Marcus observes. They're erasing history. Tommy's voice crackles through their earpieces. Father, the drone's picking up heat signatures below ground, multiple levels, and there are people down. There, Father Marcus's blood runs cold. It's still active. The trafficking operation, they never shut it down. They just moved it here. Donovan's face hardens. Sarah died trying to save children from these monsters, and they're still doing it. Get word to Chen, Father Marcus instructs Tommy. Tell her what we found, and contact Anna. We'll need the survivor network ready. 4. Now what? To tell the real story, not just about Belgrade or the hospital fire, but about what's happening right now. They move carefully toward the east loading dock, using years of experience to avoid the patrols. The maintenance entrance is exactly where Sarah's diary indicated, hidden behind old pallets and debris. The lock yields to Donovan's expertise, and they descend into darkness. The tunnel feels older than the terminal above, its walls sweating. With moisture, their flashlight beams reveal modern security cameras, hastily installed. They're watching, Father Marcus whispers. Let them, Donovan replies. Sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy thinks they're setting for you. They reach a heavy door marked Archive Section B. Through it, they can hear the hum of machinery, the shredders already at work destroying evidence. Father Marcus checks his phone, multiple messages from Chen showing the faces of power brokers entering the Golden Palace, each one a potential conspirator, each one another piece of the puzzle Sarah died trying to solve. Whatever we find in there, he says quietly, it needs to reach the public, all of it. Donovan nods, understanding. Sarah used to say that evil thrives in darkness because good people look away. Time to make them look. They share a moment of silent prayer, Catholic and lapsed Catholic, priest and mobster, both seeking guidance for what's to come. Then, Father Marcus reaches for the door, ready to confront whatever darkness lurks beyond. But darkness, as Sarah taught him, is simply the absence of light. And sometimes bringing light means being willing to burn. The door opens to reveal a maze of filing cabinets and servers. Workers in cheap suits feed documents into industrial shredders, while others transfer data to portable drives. In the center of the room, the Murphy brothers supervise the operation. Sean and Kevin Murphy, their matching suits unable to hide their brutal nature. "Right on schedule," Sean says without turning. The saint arrives to witness the erasing of his past. Father Marcus steps into the light. "Not just my past, everyone's, all the evidence of what you've done." "What have we done?" Kevin laughs. "You were part of it, Father. Or have you forgotten the jobs you did before Belgrade, the people you silenced?" "I remember everything," Father Marcus replies quietly. "That's why I'm here." Through their earpieces, Tommy's voice comes urgent. "Father, the drone's showing multiple vehicles approaching, heavy security, someone important is coming." Donovan moves to cover the door, while Father Marcus faces the brothers. "Sarah's diary, she knew about this place, about all the places." "Clever girl, your Sarah," Sean acknowledges. "Too clever, always keeping records, making copies. Insurance, she called it." He gestures to a specific cabinet. "Like that one. There, special files, the ones even the director doesn't know we kept." Kevin shoots his brother a warning look, but Sean continues. "Insurance works both ways, doesn't it, Father? Protection against enemies and allies." Father Marcus studies them carefully. "You're not just destroying evidence, you're covering someone specific, someone at the Golden Palace right now." "Smart man," Kevin sneers. "Always were. That's why they wanted you eliminated after Belgrade, but you disappeared. Found God." He spits the word like a curse. Through their earpieces, Chen's voice. "Meetings breaking up early. They're heading your way." "And Father?" "Commissioner Reynolds just got a call that made him very nervous." Tommy cuts in. "Anna's network is ready. 27 survivors, all their stories ready to go live. Just waiting for your signal." Sean Murphy moves to a computer terminal. "Funny thing about the digital age, Father, everything leaves traces, like Sarah's final recording." He hits play. Sarah's voice fills the room, clear despite the years. "Marcus, if you're hearing this, they found the Belgrade files. But Belgrade wasn't the beginning. The director, the recording cuts off as Kevin slams the computer shut. "Enough games. You want to know who gave the order to burn the hospital? Who really runs everything? They're on their way here now. And there, not coming to talk." Outside, vehicles screech to a halt. Heavy boots on metal stairs, the approach of power making itself known. Father Marcus shares a look with Donovan. Years of street experience tell them both. This is the moment before violence erupts. "Tommy," Father Marcus says quietly, "release Anna's stories, all of them, now." "But we don't have now, Tommy, before they can stop it." Sean Murphy laughs. "You think some sob stories will matter against their power?" "No," Father Marcus answers, "but this will." He holds up his phone, showing the live stream that's been running since they entered. Everything recorded, everything. Broadcast to Sister Claire's secure server. The world is watching now, no more shadows. The door bursts open. Armed men flood in, followed by Judge Harrison, Commissioner Reynolds, and a figure Father Marcus hasn't seen in 15 years. Catherine Wells, director of the Children's Hospital Program. The same program that trafficked children across Europe. "Hello, Marcus," she says calmly, "still trying to save the world?" "Hello, Director," he replies, "still profiting from destroying it?" Harrison steps forward, angry. "Do you have any idea what you've done, the arrangements you've disrupted, the powers you've angered?" "I know exactly what I've done," Father Marcus answers. "The same thing Sarah did, brought light to darkness." Through their earpieces, Tommy's voice comes triumphant. "Stories are live, Father, all of them. News networks picking them up, and the live stream from here, it's going viral." Catherine Wells's composed facade cracks slightly. "You have no idea what's coming. The forces you're dealing with, are just people, Father Marcus interrupts. Powerful people, corrupt people, but still just people. And people can be exposed, can be brought to justice. Justice? She laughs. We are justice in this city. We decide what's right, what's legal, what's evil. Donovan steps forward. Like ordering the death of a woman trying to save children, my sister died bringing the truth to light. Time for that light to finish its work. Outside, sirens approach, but not local police. Federal agents, responding to evidence too big to ignore. The power brokers' faces show the first signs of real fear. The Murphy brothers draw weapons, but Father Marcus is already moving. Years of violence transformed into precise action. No killing blows, he's still a priest, but no mercy either. Justice wears many faces. The next few minutes are chaotic. Gunfire, shouts, the sound of justice arriving too late to prevent violence, but just in time to witness truth. When it ends, the power brokers are in custody. The evidence is secure, and Father Marcus stands in the center of it all, his collar back in place. Sarah would be proud, Donovan says quietly. Father Marcus picks up her diary from where it fell. In the fight, she knew. All these years, she knew this day would come. That's why she left the breadcrumbs, the evidence, the diary. She trusted us to finish it. Above ground, dawn breaks over East Haven. Anna coordinates with other survivors, their stories flooding media channels. Tommy's live stream becomes international news. Sister Claire opens St. Michael's to reporters and federal agents, sharing Sarah's archived evidence. The power structure that seemed unshakable crumbles in the light of day. But light, as Father Marcus has learned, doesn't just expose, it transforms. The darkness in his own past becomes part of a larger story of redemption and justice. As he walks back to his church, the bullet-casing rosary in his pocket feels different. Not a burden of past sins, but a testament to transformation. Each bead a step on the path from darkness to light, from violence to justice, from revenge to redemption. The morning sun catches the stained glass of St. Michael's, creating patterns of light that dance like holy fire. Inside, his congregation waits, not to judge his past, but to support his future. Because sometimes God's grace works through unexpected channels, and sometimes the path to redemption requires walking through darkness to bring light to others. 3 days after the raid on the shipping terminal, East Haven exists in a state of controlled chaos. Federal agents occupy the Golden Palace, boxes of evidence streaming out in an endless parade. News vans clog the streets, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like modern prayers. At St. Michael's, Father Marcus performs his duties under the watchful eyes of plainclothes security, protection or surveillance. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Detective Chen arrives during morning mass, waiting patiently in the back pews. Her suspension has been lifted, but her expression carries new weight. They're making deals, she reports after the service. Catherine Wells, Judge Harrison, they're all trying to save themselves by exposing others. And the children from the terminal, safe, being reunited with families where possible, placed in secure homes where not. She pauses, but there's something else, something bigger. In his office, she spreads out new documents, financial records, corporate structures, political connections. The trafficking operation, it wasn't just about money or power. It was about influence, blackmail material on half the world's power brokers. Father Marcus studies the papers. They created partnerships of guilt. Everyone involved became complicit and became controllable. Exactly. And now that network is unraveling. Powerful people are panicking, and panicking people make dangerous decisions. Their discussion is interrupted by Tommy bursting in. "Father, you need to see this." On his laptop, a news report plays. Multiple bodies discovered in Dublin, Belgrade, and other cities, all connected to the original trafficking operation. All clear messages. They're cleaning the house, Chen realizes, eliminating loose ends. Father Marcus's phone buzzes. a message from an unknown number. Judgment comes for all sinners. Father, even those who wear collars. Anna arrives next, her face pale. The survivor network? 3 of them are missing, just gone. And my apartment was broken into last night. They left this. She holds up a familiar rosary made of bullet casings, another replica of his own. They're not just threatening us, Father Marcus says quietly. They're threatening everyone who might speak out. Sister Claire enters with Mr. Ortiz, both carrying more troubling news. Protection requests from the federal agents have been mysteriously denied. Local police. Patrols around safe houses have been reassigned. The system's invisible hands are moving. There's more, Mr. Ortiz adds. Victor's old territory, new players moving in, professional types. They're buying properties, establishing bases, like they're preparing for something. Father Marcus absorbs this information, seeing the pattern emerge. They're not just cleaning the house, they're preparing for war. A text from Donovan confirms his fears. Murphy brothers escaped federal custody. Half the evidence from the terminal has vanished. From lockup, they're rewriting the narrative. Chen checks her police contacts. Federal agents being reassigned. Investigation getting tangled in jurisdictional disputes. The machine is protecting itself. Tommy, still monitoring social media, notes another pattern. The survivor stories. They're being discredited. Fake experts appearing on news shows, questioning their credibility, and the live stream from the terminal. Platforms are taking it down for review. They can't bury this, Anna insists, not with so many witnesses, so much evidence. They don't need to bury it, Father Marcus explains. They just need to create enough doubt, enough confusion. Make people look away, like they always have. Sister Claire, who has been quiet, suddenly speaks up. Sarah's diary. There's something we missed, a pattern in her code. They gather around as she explains. The diary wasn't just documentation, it was a roadmap. Sarah had mapped out the entire network, including contingency plans and fail-safes. Look, Sister Claire points to specific entries. She knew they might try to discredit witnesses, so she created dead man switches, evidence stored with trusted parties, set to release if certain conditions were met. Like what? Like the deaths. We're seeing now. Each murder triggers another release of evidence. The more they try to cover up, the more they get exposed. Father Marcus reads Sarah's coded notes with new understanding. She didn't just document their crimes, she created a trap. Every attempt to silence the truth just triggers more revelations. His phone buzzes again, this time a video call. From Catherine Wells. Despite being in federal custody, she looks composed, confident. Impressive strategy, she says without preamble. Sarah was always the clever one, but cleverness has its limits. What do you want, Catherine? To offer you a choice, a chance to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Her smile is cold. We're willing to be generous. The survivor network gets protection, new identities. Your little flock stays safe. All you have to do is help us contain this situation. You mean help you bury the truth? Truth, she laughs. Truth is whatever the powerful say it is. You know this, Marcus. You used to be one of us. And now you have 1 hour to decide. Help us manage this crisis, or watch everything you've built burn, starting with your church. The call ends, leaving them in heavy silence. Tommy's laptop shows more news. Another survivor found dead. Federal agents being pulled back. Media narratives shifting. They're serious, Chen says quietly. They have enough influence left to make good on their threats. Anna stands firm. We can't let them win. Not after everything Sarah sacrificed. Father Marcus moves to the church window, watching his parishioners go about their day. Families attending counseling sessions, children in the community center, elderly couples praying together. All potential targets. Sarah's diary, he says finally. The dead man switches. How many are there? Sister Claire consults the coded pages. Dozens. Some we've identified, others still hidden. Why? Because Catherine's right about one thing. Truth is powerful, but only if people are alive to speak it. He turns to face them. We don't need to stop the truth. We just need to control how it comes out. What are you suggesting? Chen asks. We give them what they want, apparently. Let them think they're containing the situation. Meanwhile, we activate Sarah's switches in a controlled way. Not all, at once, but strategically. Keep the pressure on while protecting our people. Tommy catches on. Like a slow-release poison, each revelation builds on the last, too consistent to discredit. But we'll need time, Anna points out. Time to get our people to safety, to secure the evidence. Then we'll buy time, Father Marcus decides. I'll meet with Catherine, make her think I'm considering her offer. It's dangerous, Sister Claire warns. Everything about this is dangerous. But Sarah didn't just leave us evidence, she left us a weapon. We just need to learn how to use it. Donovan arrives as they're planning, bringing more intel from his street contacts. They're mobilizing serious resources, professional hit teams arriving in the city. They're not just trying to contain the story, they're preparing to eliminate everyone who knows it. Father Marcus checks his bullet-casing rosary, the one thing that's truly his, not a replica meant to threaten. Each bead represents a life taken in pursuit of justice. Now each one might represent a life saved by revealing the truth. Sarah once told me, he says quietly, that the greatest sin isn't violence, it's silence in the face of evil. We're not going to be silent, but we are going to be smart. As they prepare for what's coming, Father Marcus leads them in prayer, not for protection or victory, but for wisdom. Because sometimes fighting evil means knowing when to advance and when to retreat, when to strike and when to wait. Outside St. Michael's, the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across East Haven. But shadows, as they've learned, can serve both the hunters and the hunted. The question is, who's really hunting whom? Father Marcus retreats to the church's small chapel to prepare for his meeting with Catherine. Sister Claire finds him there, holding a worn photograph, Sarah with the children from Belgrade, her smile radiant with purpose. I've been thinking about choices, he says without looking up. About the moment Sarah decided to document everything. She must have known the risks. She knew something else, too. Sister Claire responds, that truth needs guardians. People are willing to preserve it, protect it, and wait for the right moment to reveal it. Their conversation is interrupted by Detective Chen's urgent arrival. We found something in the police archives, cases going back decades, missing children, all connected to prominent families. But the files were altered, investigations redirected. More of Catherine's network? No, that's just it. These cases predate her involvement. She didn't create the trafficking operation, she inherited it. And according to these records, the previous director was... My father, a new voice interrupts. Patrick Donovan stands in the chapel doorway, holding old newspapers. James Donovan, respected philanthropist, founder of children's charities across Europe, and architect of the original trafficking network. The revelation lands like a physical blow. See, Sarah knew? Father Marcus asks quietly. She suspected. It's in her diary, coded references to our father's special projects. That's why she started. Investigating in the first place. Family sin became family redemption. Tommy bursts in, his laptop displaying urgent news. They're moving faster than we thought. 3 more survivors just recanted their stories. Their families were threatened. Mr. Ortiz arrives next, bringing reports from the neighborhood watch. Strange cars circling the safe houses, professional surveillance teams. They're mapping our network. They're not just threatening us, Anna realizes, studying the patterns. They're documenting our responses, learning how we operate, like they're preparing for something bigger. Father Marcus absorbs this information, seeing the larger strategy emerge. They're not just trying to silence the truth. They're trying to prevent anyone from ever speaking out again. making an example of us. Detective Chen's phone chirps with updates from her federal contacts. Catherine Wells isn't just in custody. She's in protective custody, claiming she has evidence of government involvement, black projects, official sanctions. She's negotiating, Father Marcus understands, using her knowledge as leverage. And while the authorities debate jurisdiction, she's still running the operation, Donovan finishes. From inside federal protection, Sister Claire, who's been studying Sarah's diary, suddenly straightens. The hospital fire, there's more here. Sarah didn't just document the trafficking. She found proof of government contracts, official paperwork disguised as adoption records. That's why they killed her, Anna says softly. Not just to stop her exposing the trafficking, but to prevent her revealing official complicity. Tommy, still monitoring social media, notices a new pattern. The news coverage is changing. They're not just discrediting witnesses anymore. They're building a different narrative about radical activists threatening national security. They're painting us as terrorists. Father Marcus moves to the chapel window, watching federal agents change shifts outside the church. Protection detail or surveillance team, the line keeps blurring. Catherine's offer, he says finally. The 1-hour deadline. She knows we won't accept it. It's not an offer, Chen realizes. It's justified. When we refuse, they'll have their excuse for whatever comes next. Then we change the game, Father Marcus decides. Sarah's deadman switches. How many are aimed at official targets? Sister Claire consults the diary. At least 7, including files that would expose government involvement in the original network. That's why Catherine's really negotiating, Donovan understands. She's not just protecting herself. She's protecting her official partners. Father Marcus makes a decision. Tommy, get me everything you can on Catherine's protective custody arrangement. Chen, we need details on federal transport protocols. Anna, contact every survivor who hasn't been compromised. Tell them to be ready. Ready for what? Sister Claire asks, though her expression suggests she already knows. Catherine thinks she's safe behind federal protection, that she can threaten us while hiding behind official shields. His expression hardens slightly. Time. To remind her that some sins can't be protected, Marcus, Sister Claire warns, whatever you're planning, not planning, Claire, praying. Because sometimes prayer means asking forgiveness for what you know you have to do. As night falls over East Haven, the group separates to prepare. Each has their role, their part in the larger strategy. The community network activates, eyes and ears alert for any threat. In safe houses across the city, survivors prepare to move again, protected by the lessons Sarah's sacrifice taught them. Father Marcus returns to his office, where Sarah's diary lies open on his desk. In its coded pages, she left more than evidence. She left a blueprint for fighting back against seemingly untouchable power, not with violence, but with truth, not with revenge, but with justice. His phone buzzes with Catherine's final warning. Time's running out, Father. The saints' crusade ends tonight. He sends a simple reply. Every saint has a past. Every sinner has a future. You taught me that, Catherine. Time to learn what it really means. Outside, more federal agents arrive, their vehicles filling the church parking lot. But in the gathering darkness, other movements go unnoticed. Donovan's people taking positions. Chen's trusted officers established coverage. Anna's survivor network prepares to strike back not with violence, but with testimony. The bullet-casing rosary clicks through Father Marcus's fingers one final time, not in prayer now, but in preparation. Because sometimes God's work requires more than faith. Sometimes it requires the courage to bring light to darkness, no matter the cost. The hour of Catherine's deadline approaches, but in St. Michael's quiet chapel, a different clock is ticking. Sarah's dead man switches, waiting to be triggered. Evidence ready to be released, truth preparing to break free from shadows that have contained it for too long. The war for truth is about to enter its final phase, and this time the shadows won't be able to hide what's coming into the light. Midnight approaches East Haven like a gathering storm. St. Michael's stands illuminated against the darkness, surrounded by federal vehicles and news vans. Inside, Father Marcus prepares for what's coming, not with weapons, but with truth. Detective Chen arrives through the back entrance, her expression urgent. Catherine's being moved. Federal marshals are transferring her to a secure facility upstate. Timeline? Father Marcus asks, studying the church's security cameras. 2 hours, heavy escort, multiple decoy vehicles. She pauses, but something's off. The transfer order came from way above, senator level. Tommy, monitoring communications from his laptop, picks up a pattern. More survivors are being approached. Not with threats this time, with offers. Government protection in exchange for silence. They're trying to control the narrative, Anna observes. Legitimate witness protection program, everything official. And clean. Father Marcus watches the federal agents outside through the church windows. How many survivors have accepted? None, Anna says with quiet pride. They remember Belgrade. Government protection doesn't always protect. Sister Claire enters with Mr. Ortiz and Maria, bringing news from the community. East Haven has transformed overnight. Shop owners converting back rooms into safe houses, families offering shelter to survivors, young people running communications networks through video game chat rooms. The neighborhood remembers Victor. Mr. Ortiz explains, we learned how to resist them. Now we're putting those lessons to use. Maria adds, even Victor's old territory is helping. The new players trying to move in, our people are blocking them, peaceful but firm. No violence, just presence. Father Marcus absorbs this information, seeing Sarah's influence in how the community has organized. Not through force, but through unity, through shared purpose. Donovan arrives next, bringing intelligence from his street contacts. The Murphy brothers aren't just free, they're recruiting professional contractors, ex-military types. Building a private army. For what? Chen asks. Insurance. Catherine may be in custody, but she's not powerless if her official protection fails. She has unofficial backup ready, Father Marcus finishes. The Murphy brothers are her contingency plan. Tommy's laptop chirps with alerts. More news coverage shifting. They're starting to question the federal investigation itself, suggesting political motivation, foreign interference. Muddying the waters, Chen understands. Making people doubt everything so they'll believe nothing. Anna, who's been studying Sarah's diary with Sister Claire, suddenly sits up straighter. The transfers Sarah documented, they weren't just about moving children, they were about moving information. Each trafficking operation gathered intelligence on the families involved. Blackmail material, Donovan confirms, but not just on the criminals, on everyone, including the officials who were supposed to stop it. Father Marcus moves to the church altar, where Sarah's photograph sits among the candles. That's why Catherine's so confident. She's not just protecting herself, she's protecting a system, a web of complicity that stretches through every level of power. His phone buzzes with a new message from Catherine. Last chance, Father. The transfer tonight, it's not just about moving me. It's about consolidating power. Choose your side carefully. Sister Claire reads the message over his shoulder. Marcus, whatever you're planning. Not planning, Claire. Remembering. He holds up Sarah's diary. She didn't just leave us evidence. She left us a blueprint for fighting back. Not with violence, but with truth. The group gathers around as he explains. Sarah's dead man switches weren't random, they were strategically placed, designed to trigger chain reactions. Each revelation would force specific officials to choose, maintain the conspiracy or protect themselves. The transfer tonight, he continues, it's not about protecting Catherine, it's about giving her access to new resources, new leverage. So, we stop the transfer, Donovan suggests. No, we let it happen, but we control how it happens. Tommy understands first. The news vans outside, they're not just covering the story, they're part of it. Exactly. Catherine wants to control the narrative. Let's give her an audience she can't control. The plan comes together quickly. Chen coordinates with trusted officers, positioning them along the transfer route. Donovan's people blend with the growing crowd of onlookers, ready but invisible. Anna's survivor network prepares to release their stories in coordinated waves. Mr. Ortiz and Maria activate the community network. Shop owners leave lights on, doors unlocked, creating a path of sanctuary through East Haven. Families position themselves on porches and stoops, peaceful witnesses to whatever comes. Sister Claire, studying the gathering crowd, notes something remarkable. Look at them. Not just our parishioners, everyone, standing together. She's right. The crowd outside St. Michael's has grown, but it's not just observers. Shop owners from Victor's old territory stand beside elderly church ladies. Former gang members protect families with children. East Haven's divisions have dissolved in the face of a greater purpose. Father Marcus removes his collar, tucking it safely away. Sarah believed in the power of witness, not just seeing, but testifying, standing up. He checks his bullet casing. Rosary, one final time. Tonight we all become witnesses. Detective Chen's phone lights up with alerts. Transport's moving earlier than scheduled. They're trying to avoid the crowd. No, Father Marcus corrects. They're counting on the crowd. A peaceful protest turned violent would justify whatever comes next. Tommy's monitoring picks up increased chatter. Multiple tactical teams moving into position, not just federal, private contractors too. The Murphy brothers' insurance policy, Donovan confirms. Father Marcus makes final preparations, ensuring Sarah's evidence is secure. Each dead man switch is positioned to trigger not just revelations, but reactions, a cascade of truth that no amount of power can contain. Remember, he tells the group, tonight isn't about revenge, it's about revelation, about bringing light to darkness. Sister Claire leads them in prayer, not for victory, but for courage, for the strength to stand witness, to speak truth, to resist not with violence, but with unshakable unity. Outside, the federal convoy approaches through streets, lined with witnesses. Every window holds watching eyes. Every doorway contains a ready sanctuary. East Haven has become what Sarah always believed it could be, a community united against darkness. Father Marcus steps out of St. Michael's into the gathered crowd. No weapons, no threats, just presence. Behind him, his unlikely army stands ready, not to fight, but to witness, to testify, to illuminate. The night deepens over East Haven, but tonight the darkness holds no power, because tonight the light comes not from one source, but from many. A community standing together, holding truth like a torch against the gathering shadows. Catherine's convoy approaches, and with it, the moment of decision. But the choice isn't just Father Marcus's anymore. It belongs to every witness, every voice, every bearer of truth who refuses to look away. The war for truth enters its final phase, and this time the light will not be extinguished. The federal convoy emerges from the darkness like a mechanized serpent. Black SUVs and armored vehicles, their headlights cutting through the night. Leading the procession, motorcycle units clear the streets, but they find no resistance to clear. Only witnesses standing silent and firm. In St. Michael's bell tower, Tommy monitors multiple feeds. First wave of stories hitting social media. Now, Survivor testimonies, documentation, everything timed with Catherine's transfer. Anna coordinates with her network through encrypted channels. More is coming. Every few minutes, new revelations. They can't stop them all. Detective Chen's police contacts report unusual movements. Private security teams taking up positions. Professional hit squads disguised as federal backup. The Murphy brothers people, Donovan confirms from his vantage point, moving into strike positions. Whatever Catherine's planning, it's bigger than just her transfer. Through the crowd, Father Marcus moves like a shadow among shadows. Each step calculated, each position chosen with the experience of his former life. But tonight, his weapon isn't violence, it's true. Sister Claire's voice comes through their earpieces, steady and sure. Remember what Sarah wrote in her final entry. Evil thrives not just in darkness, but in isolation. Unity is its greatest enemy. The convoy slows as it approaches St. Michael's. Through tinted windows, Catherine Wells surveys the crowd. Her face, visible for just a moment, shows not concern but satisfaction. She wanted this, Father Marcus realizes. A show of force disguised as vulnerability. Whatever's coming, she planned for it. His suspicion proves correct as the first provocateurs appear, men in plain clothes trying to incite the crowd. But East Haven has learned from its battles with Victor. The community absorbs the agitators, surrounding them with peaceful presence until they have no room to act. Mr. Ortiz's network reports more movement. Shop owners leave their lights on, creating corridors of illumination through the neighborhood. Families opening their doors, ready to provide sanctuary if needed. Look at the rooftops, Chen warns. Tactical teams setting up. Not just tactical teams, Tommy adds, studying his feeds. News cameras, they're positioning for coverage. Whatever happens, they want it filmed. Maria's voice crackles through. Father, the children from the community center, they're singing. The hymn Sarah taught them in Belgrade. The sound carries across East Haven, young voices raised in the song of hope that Sarah used to teach trafficked children. The same melody that gave comfort in the darkest places now rises as a testament to light. Catherine's convoy stops directly in front of St. Michael's. The moment stretches, pregnant with possibility and danger. Then her door opens, and she emerges, flanked by federal marshals who may or may not be real marshals. "Quite the reception, Father," she calls out, her voice carrying. "All this theater for little old me?" "Not theater, Catherine. Witness. Witness," she laughs. "To what? A legitimate federal transfer, or are you suggesting something improper? About official justice?" As she speaks, Tommy's monitoring picks up encrypted communications. Multiple teams converging, they're using the crowd as cover. Father Marcus moves closer, each step measured. "You taught me something important, Catherine, about power, about systems." "Did I?" "You showed me that true power isn't in violence, it's in control. In making people look away, stay silent, accept darkness as normal. Around them the crowd shifts, not in fear or anger, but in purpose. East Haven's people positioning themselves, not as protesters, but as witnesses. Each phone camera active, each eye alert, each presence a testimony. "But Sarah," Father Marcus continues, "she taught me something else, about light, about the truth." Catherine's composed facade cracks slightly as more survivor stories hit the media. Each revelation timed perfectly with her transfer, each truth a spotlight on decades of darkness. "You can't stop this," she warns. "The system protects itself. Always has, always will." "We're not trying to stop the system," Father Marcus responds. "We're becoming the system, a new one, built on witness, not silence, on unity, not fear." The Murphy brothers' teams begin to move, but they find themselves confronted not by resistance, but by presence. Everywhere they turn, witnesses stand ready. Community members recording, documenting, ensuring that whatever happens will be seen. Catherine's phone buzzes with urgent messages. More officials exposed, more connections revealed. Sarah's dead man switches, triggering not just evidence but reactions, a cascade of truth that forces choices, maintain the conspiracy or save themselves. "Do you think this changes anything?" Catherine demands, but her voice holds a new note, uncertainty. Power doesn't yield to witness. "No," Father Marcus agrees, "but it does yield to light, to tell the truth, to the community standing together." As, if in response, more voices join the children's hymn, shop owners, families, former gang members, the song spreads through East Haven like a wave of sound. Not a protest, not a threat, but a testimony. Catherine's federal escorts shift nervously. The Murphy brothers' teams find themselves surrounded not by adversaries, but by witnesses. Every move they make, every step they take, recorded and observed. The night air fills with more than just songs. Truth flows through digital channels, survivor stories flood media outlets, evidence spreads faster than it can be contained. The very system Catherine built to maintain control now becomes the means of its exposure. In the bell tower, Tommy monitors the cascade of revelations. It's working. They can't stop all the stories, can't discredit all the witnesses, can't silence an entire community. Sister Claire's voice carries quiet satisfaction. Sarah would be proud, not just of the exposure, but of how it's happening. Through unity, through witness, through the very community she died protecting. The bullet-casing rosary in Father Marcus's pocket feels different now. Not a weight of past sins, but a testament to transformation. Each bead represents not just justice delivered, but truth revealed. Catherine Wells stands in the center of it all, watching her system of shadows crumble. In the face of unified light, the night deepens over East Haven, but tonight darkness holds no power. Because tonight, the light comes from everywhere, and even the deepest shadows cannot stand against the witness of an entire community united in truth. Dawn breaks over East Haven, painting the sky in shades of redemption. St. Michael's stands, serene in the morning light, its windows reflecting the sunrise like flames. Inside, Father Marcus kneels before the altar, his bullet-casing rosary wrapped around clasped hands. But this time, his prayers aren't for forgiveness, they're for guidance in victory. The night's events have transformed more than just the neighborhood. Catherine Wells sits in genuine federal custody, her carefully constructed protections stripped away by the light of truth. The Murphy brothers' mercenary force dissolved in the face of unified witness, their power broken not by violence, but by visibility. Detective Chen arrives with the morning's news. Federal task force is taking over, real one this time, with international oversight. The evidence is too big to contain. And the survivors, Father Marcus asks, rising from prayer, safe? All of them. The community network worked perfectly, not a single witness lost, not one voice silenced. Anna enters next, her laptop displaying global news coverage. It's everywhere now. Not just the trafficking network, everything. Government complicity, corporate involvement, decades of covered-up crimes. Sarah's dead man switches triggered a domino effect. Tommy, who hasn't slept, monitors the digital aftermath. They're still trying to spin it, but it's too late. Too many witnesses, too many voices. The truth has its own momentum now. Sister Claire brings coffee and a quiet observation. The morning mass crowd. It's different today. Not just our regulars. People from all over the city, coming to witness something new. She's right. The church fills with an unprecedented mix. Survivors seeking solace, journalists seeking understanding, officials seeking redemption. Among them, Patrick Donovan sits in quiet contemplation, his sister's diary open in his hands. Mr. Ortiz arrives with Maria and other community leaders. The Shop Owners Association has transformed into something larger, a network of protection and support extending far beyond East Haven's borders. The new business association is official, Ortiz announces, but it's more than commerce now. We're establishing a foundation using recovered assets to help trafficking survivors. Sarah's foundation, Maria adds softly. For those who need light in darkness. Father Marcus absorbs these updates, seeing the larger pattern emerge. The night's victory wasn't just about exposing truth. It was about transforming it into lasting change. His phone buzzes with a message from the Federal Task Force. Catherine Wells is talking, her carefully maintained networks unraveling. Each revelation leads to more arrests, more exposed conspiracies, more light flooding into decades of darkness. The Murphy brothers surfaced in Canada, Chen reports, checking her updates. Tried to access old accounts but found them frozen. The financial net Sarah set up. It worked perfectly. And Volkov? Found at the airport trying to flee. But someone had already forwarded evidence to Interpol. His own people turned on him. Tommy's monitoring reveals another pattern. The survivor stories. They're becoming more than exposés. People are sharing their own experiences, creating support networks. It's spreading globally. Anna nods in understanding. Like Sarah always said, truth needs witnesses, but witnesses need community. Through the church windows, they watch east. Haven awakened to its new reality. The fear that once permeated the streets has transformed into something else. Purpose, unity, strength in shared witness. Father Marcus moves through his morning duties with a different awareness. Each confession he hears carries notes of hope rather than fear. Each blessing he gives feels like part of a larger transformation. Sister Claire finds him in the garden where they first discussed his past. "You know this isn't over," she says gently. "Light reveals, but it also challenges. People will have to face what they've ignored." "Good," he responds. "Facing truth is part of redemption. Sarah taught me that." Donovan approaches with new information. "The old network, the one our father built, we found its origin point. A monastery in Belgrade, corrupted from a place of sanctuary into something darker. And now it's being reclaimed. Anna's survivor network. They're transforming it into a real sanctuary, a place of healing. The morning progresses, bringing more revelations, more transformations. The Federal Task Force uncovers links to trafficking networks worldwide, but they also find Sarah's carefully laid plans for dismantling them. Detective Chen reviews the growing evidence. She didn't just document the crimes, she created a blueprint for healing. Every piece of evidence comes with a corresponding plan for helping survivors, preventing future abuse. The real victory, Sister Claire observes, isn't just in exposing darkness, it's in building something better in its place. Father Marcus receives another message, this one from a secure server Sarah set up years ago. A final video, timed to release only after certain conditions were met. The group gathers to watch. Sarah appears on screen, younger but with the same determined spirit they've come to know through her work. "If you're seeing this," she begins, "then the truth has finally come to light. But remember, light isn't just about exposing darkness. It's about growing something new. Each of you who stood witness, who spoke truth, who chose to act rather than look away, you're part of that growth." The video continues, revealing not just final evidence, but final guidance. Sarah's vision wasn't just about bringing down a corrupt system, it was about building a new one, founded on witness, protection, and community. As evening approaches, Father Marcus prepares for a special service. The church fills beyond capacity, but not with regular parishioners. Survivors sit beside former enemies. Officials who chose truth over power pray alongside those they once oppressed. East Haven's people mix with visitors from around the world. all drawn by the light of transformation. His homily speaks not of sin and redemption, but of witness and renewal. Each word carries the weight of experience. Each blessing holds the promise of change. After the service, he meets with his unlikely family, Chen, Anna, Tommy, Sister Claire, the Donovans, the community leaders. Each has been transformed by the truth they helped reveal. Sarah once told me, he shares, that true redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about transforming it into something that serves the light. He holds up his bullet-casing rosary one final time. But now, each bead represents not a life taken, but a life transformed. Not a victory through violence, but a triumph through truth. The sun sets over East Haven, but tonight the darkness holds no power, because tonight, and all the nights to come, the light shines not from one source, but from many. A community united in witness, in protection, in the ongoing work of transformation. Father Marcus returns to his evening prayers, but they're different now. No longer seeking forgiveness for past sins, but asking guidance for future service. Because sometimes redemption isn't just about being saved, it's about becoming someone who helps save others. The bullet-casing rosary rests on the altar, transformed like its owner from a weapon into a tool of light. And in its gleam, the promise Sarah died protecting lives on. The truth, witnessed by many and protected by all, becomes not just revelation, but revolution. East Haven sleeps peaceful under starlight, its streets no longer shadowed by fear, but illuminated by purpose. And in St. Michael's quiet sanctuary, a warrior-turned-priest continues his vigil, knowing that some battles are won not with fists, but with faith, not with violence, but with witness, not alone, but in unity. The light, once ignited, burns eternal, and in its glow, redemption becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.